Hey guys, it's Karl, and in front of me we have the oddball of the group. This is the newly updated 2022 MacBook Pro, the 13-inch, which unfortunately still has the same design but has the new M2 chip. And I know that from WWDC, all the hype was around the redesigned MacBook Airs.
This is the new MacBook Air, powered by M2.
Which will be getting similar internals, of course, that M2 chip, but has the sexy new redesign. Of course, midnight blue, or I guess midnight is the official Apple color, which is a really dark blue. That's the one everyone wants to see. That's coming to the studio, so if you already haven't, make sure you sub. Shameless plug for the day, and let's get to this, like I said, this oddball. So what I find really strange is even though we have a new update, of course, that M2 chip powerhouse, everyone knows that, this chassis or this design of this MacBook is still dated. If we take a look at all the MacBooks Apple is shifting into the direction with, it is that squared off design. We saw that with the 14-inch MacBook Pro, the 16-inch MacBook Pro, the new MacBook Airs have that same design. This is still the older clam shape, and it still has those extra curves. Not saying curves are bad in any way, but unfortunately, it's still the same old body. And funny little fact, when I was quickly unboxing this a couple days ago, of course we have the new MacBook Pro logo on the front, but even on the back, the older box, and I think Apple's trying to pull a quick one, maybe I guess save on some extra boxes they have, just stuck this little sticker on top, and you can actually see through the sticker some of the older specs from the older MacBooks. And when you try to peel this off, I think it's like one of those security stickers that it starts to fray everywhere and you can't quite get underneath. But interesting to note that it's an older design box. Not that that matters. What you want to see is the laptop. And like I said, it does follow an older design. So what does that technically mean? It still unfortunately has just the two USB-C ports on the one side and the 3.5mm headphone jack on the other. When you compare that to, say, the 14-inch or even the new MacBook Airs that are coming, those have the new MagSafe with, of course, a color match braided cable. That'll give you access to fast charging and will help keep one of your ports free. The new MacBook Airs also come in different color options. I mentioned Midnight, Starlight, which is their champagne kind of gold color, of course, Space Gray and Silver. This one only comes in the latter two. So once again, kind of dated still. And when you open it up, it's essentially the same body that we've seen. So this actually still has that good old touch bar. And I know a lot of people give the touch bar flack. It isn't really that useful. People do prefer to have actual function keys, but I do have a soft spot for the touch bar. Just kind of flicking through emojis when I'm using iMessage is literally the only use. And one thing that I do like, when I connect it to an external monitor, it gives me the option on the touch bar to increase or decrease the brightness both on the MacBook or the laptop as well as the monitor. If you have the function keys, you unfortunately can't do that. But very small use cases for the touch bar. I think you'll either love or hate it. It of course still has Touch ID. You still have the speakers on the sides, and it is technically the 3 mic array like we see in the MacBook Air, but that's pretty much where the similarities end. If we look at the main thing, which is the display, the one on the Air is actually slightly larger. So this is 13.3 inches compared to the 13.6 on the new Air that's coming up. This still has the good old chunky fat boy bezels. As you can see up top, there's no notch. It just feels like a dated machine. It's something obviously that's 6 years old. It's something that is in dire need of a refresh. And furthermore, up top, that front-facing camera, 720p, 6-year-old dated tech compared to the, I guess now 1080p on the MacBook Air. So clearly dated hardware, and I think the main reason why Apple is keeping this around, this chassis, which has existed for so long, is super cheap for them to keep on that production. They probably have a ton of this material and they just want to stick the new M2 chip. And there's no denying that the performance of this is better than M1. So I think the last M1 computer I have is still my M1 iMac, the classic orange machine. I think I've gotten rid of all my M1 MacBook Airs or even the older MacBook Pros. This is better than that. It isn't that much better, but comparing benchmarks, we're at around 20-ish%. And as a little test for all my vids, we actually tried to edit them on the machine that we're reviewing. So in the first part of this video, as we're doing a bit of movie magic here, we were in Final Cut. The timeline was obviously buttery smooth. We're just working with 4K files, the M1 series or even M2 handles 4K footage like a champ. There isn't really anything else like this in the market compared to what Intel is offering. So if you are still rocking an older Intel-based MacBook, the time to jump to the M series processors. There's never been a better time. I would say though, if you're eyeing something in this price bracket around $1,000, 1,100 USD, 1,500-ish Canadian, it's hard for me to recommend this new MacBook Pro. Wait till the MacBook Airs come in the next month. I know that my review unit is en route. Even my quick hands-on time of the Air at WWDC, I already knew that's the computer that I would recommend to most people. If you are looking for a Pro device, this has that Pro name, MacBook Pro. The main reason to grab this is for the performance. The one up, or the extra up that this still has over the Air, it does have a fan built in, so that should help with thermals, it should help with throttling, it won't decrease performance over time. But, there's a big but to that, if you are eyeing a laptop for performance, you'd probably upgrade right away to the 14-inch or even 16-inch new MacBook Pros. And as a prime example, this 14-inch MacBook Pro, the updated design one, which I have here, the difference in size actually isn't too crazy. Obviously, you get that extra technically inch, but you're actually getting more than that. And you can kind of clearly see here from both models, even though this is technically 14 inches or 14.2 inches for the display, it isn't that much larger in terms of form factor. So you're getting less body, larger display, you have all the extra ports, of course, that updated design, and you have double the internals. Yes, I get it, $19.99 for the 14-inch MacBook Pro as base, but you get double the RAM, double the storage, better chip performance with the M1 Pro, and a better display. I mentioned larger, and it also has Pro Motion. So the reason to get this 13-inch MacBook Pro, honestly, it's really tough to think of too many. If you are a true fan of the touch bar, if you love to scroll through emojis, if you love to control your display brightness on both machines, maybe if you need that extra little bit of video performance than the Air can handle, even though the Air, from what I tested at WWDC, could still handle 4K footage, maybe at prolonged usage because this has a fan, maybe you can justify this if you don't want to spend, say, $2,000 on the 14-inch model, but I think this is for a really niche market. I can expect this laptop not to become obsolete, but to be phased out by the next refresh cycle. I'm sure we even see that with the rehashed box to the side. Apple couldn't even build new boxes for it. So I think this is a bit of a Frankenstein. I think if you got this as a gift and you can't return it, I'd still be happy with it. Don't get me wrong, you'll be happy with the performance, but other than that, my recommended option, if you can afford to go $2,000, get the 14-inch MacBook Pro with still the M1 Pro, even the M1 Max chip, or you can wait around for the new MacBook Airs, which should be coming in the next, I think, week or so. So make sure you're subbed to the channel. I think I'll have that video right when the embargo drops. So yeah, you don't want to miss that. And if any of you want, I can compare this to that MacBook Air with some actual benchmarks just to be sure. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this quick little vid on the Frankenstein of 2022 for the Apple MacBook lineup. I'll catch the rest of you in one of my next ones. Peace.